Okay. Is Nina online? Okay. Very exciting. Miles, actually going to be in the paper.
I don't think we're doing something important tonight.
Every meeting is important.
Chris, I was just in Willow be invisible anyway. All they see is your white hair. I was just in Germany this last week, and we were in the newspaper. We're just doing science. It's all in German, so I don't know what it says. But
I used to be able to speak it.
Yeah.
You just get off the plane?
Where did you go? What town?
The town we stayed in is called Nordlingen.
Yeah.
It's in Bavaria. It's one of the only remaining walled cities in Germany. It's like ancient.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah,
No,
it's beautiful.
We stayed in Eidelingen, which is not very far from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool country.
Oh my god, it's
Unbelievable.
geographically it felt like being home.
Yeah.
Similar rolling hills,
Yep.
farms.
Yep.
They tend to be.
Really. Okay, the May 12th, 2025 Harpers Ferry Regular Town Council meeting is now in order. Would you please rise? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. All right, just for the record, those present, excluding George, is absent and Nina is online.
Give us a sound check real quick.
Is that a sound check for me? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear us okay?
Yeah, everything sounds good.
Okay, thanks, Nina. Welcome, Nina. Approval agendas. Two or three of you have approached me with some changes, so I'll try to go through them myself instead of going to each one of you. 7A will follow 4B. Is that okay with you, Roberta?
I was thinking maybe under the community announcements, that's kind of where it should have been under, could it be items after item C?
Is there an action involved on this?
Yes.
And will you lead the discussion on this?
Yes, I'm gonna have a guest tonight, and that's kind of why I wanted to.
Okay, so let's then move it to 3. We'll just move it into 3C. Is that all right? Will that fit your need, Roberta? Okay. So again, Council, we're going to take 7A, and that will now become 3C. Second change will involve Mike on 5G2. Delete that. Mike is out of town. There will be no report from the Water Commission. And I understand, Storm, we can 5J1, we can delete, which is a stormwater task force. Was that not covered previously, or?
Yeah, I wasn't sure why.
Okay, why it was on there. So we're going to strike 5J1. And then finally, under Planning Commission, under 5E, Roman numeral 2, strike the word "and action." Strike the word "and action." So that should read discussion regarding lot. Okay, anything else,
Yeah.
Roberta?
One more on our, item 5H, ordinance review committee. I was not giving a presentation. It's just my ORC report.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Go ahead, Nina.
I got a lot of feedback on the minutes that I compiled, and I was hoping to actually postpone approval of those till next month so that I can add all that feedback in and send them back out again. And thanks for
Okay,
everyone
so-
that sent me messages about them.
Okay, so you want to propose striking 4A and 4B, is that correct?
Correct, yeah, postpone for next month, or if we have a special meeting, we can do it then.
Okay,
Nina, did you get my email about them?
I did, thank you. That was very helpful.
Okay.
all right,
Go.
so let me go through one more time. Council, make sure I have this correct. So 3C will become 7A, which is the JCDA. We're going to strike 4A and B. We are going to strike the word "and action" under the Planning Commission. We're going to strike 5G2. We're going to strike 5J1. Correct? Okay, motion to make the change.
Is that it?
Thank you. There's a second on the motion. Second, Chris. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries. 6-0 opposed. Okay. All right, mayor's announcements. I don't have any other than I think, Steve, hopefully you will cover the water shut off and that issue that we dealt with, or you dealt with most of the day today. And, I mean, it was difficult for the businesses and certainly difficult for the residents, but it left us no choice and we had to take that action. So I was gonna talk about that, but since you're here, Steve, I'd like you to cover that if you could. That was my only comment. Nina, do you have anything from your perspective?
Nothing on my end right now.
Okay, thank you, Nina. Hilltop. Okay. Park Service, Andrew, are you prepared to give a report or?
Just to mention that under Hilltop, the gate is open. to
Yeah.
walk to the-
Thank you for reminding me. The entranceway into the Hilltop is now open from dawn to dusk, D to D. So that gate is open, and if you haven't been up there and haven't had the opportunity to look at the landscape up there, it's different without it's just a whole different panorama that you're actually able to see topography that was not available before. It's kind of interesting. Okay, so let's go to 7A, and that, yeah, Chris.
Can I make just a couple of quick?
Sure, go ahead.
announcements?
Sorry.
I wanted to thank Harper's Ferry for its support of the recent flip-flop kickoff. It was very successful and had a good turnout. We sent about, I think altogether it was about 45 flip-flop through hikers off after feeding most of them pancakes on Sunday morning last week. So thank you. Thanks to the town, to ATC, and many of the businesses and the towns of Brunswick, Bolivar, and Harpers Ferry as well for their support. I also wanted to just make a reminder to the town council and the mayor that the Canal Town Partnership meeting, its monthly meeting, will be at Bolivar Community Center from 10 to noon on this Wednesday, day after tomorrow. And Superintendent Gossett will be the main speaker. So you're always welcome to any of those meetings, but especially this one since it's right here.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Any other council members? Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to go 7A. That's discussion action regarding JCDA announcement and activities. Let me turn the chair over to Roberta.
Yes, good evening, council, and thank you, Mayor. I am here tonight as your JCDA Harpers Ferry representative, and I'm joined by Mary Catherine Robinson, our current president of the JCDA. And
Yes, I am, sorry.
so we're gonna kind of go over quickly what we've been doing, for you, give you some quick, report and update. And then, Mary Catherine will give you some highlights of some of the items on the agenda I just passed out as my report number one. So item number one is unfinished business. So as you remember, I think it's probably been over a year ago that the JCDA, was before you and you voted to support the YMCA project. And so we're looking to get a update, on that, and maybe Mary Catherine has something for you tonight.
Yeah, so, well, first of all, thank you all for the invitation to be a Roberta, but it's very nice to be here. And for those of you that don't know me, I am a native of Jefferson County. I've been on the Development Authority Board. I guess I'll be finishing my second full year. Just started a new three-year term. I represent agribusiness. My family is actually in the orchard business, and my roots are here in Harpers Ferry, actually. My grandfather's family had orchards in the area. So I represent that side of the business, which is really, a ongoing family operation. So anyway, thank you all. The YMCA, so I just happened to run in to someone recently affiliated with the Y. And as I expected, the last that we had business on our agenda was in support of their issuing, or they were going forward and trying to get grant funding. I don't think that came through. So now they are in the process of still, getting funds, figuring that out. At this point, it sounds like trying to determine what might be a best size to start working with, because of course they have to have those numbers before they can move forward. So no one has given up on that project, and they've not given up on us. It's just like there's really nothing really to, talk about formally. So these have been just informal conversations, but we're hoping that is going to move forward. So.
And was that grant funding federal?
I'm not sure, Roberta. I believe that part of it was through, federal funding, but it might have been the amount as well. It was a good bit.
Okay, sorry to hear that, but hopefully you'll.
Yes, I hope so. I'm optimistic.
All right, item number 2 on our agenda is announcements. So what I have been working on with Catherine and others is the strategic plan 2021-2025 strategic plan update. And we have been working diligently, the committee, and we have released a survey that we want people to go and answer the questions. It's probably take you less than 15 minutes.
Yes.
Please spend the time, please spend the intent to really give us some good answers. We're really looking forward to that. So I'm going to hand this out. I will post this and give some to the town so they can post as well. Maybe we can post on our website. But again, the survey is due May 31st. So see what we can do to get as many answers as we can. And we have developed a list of stakeholders, and those meetings are going to be scheduled soon.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've pretty much covered it. We do, again, encouraging Jefferson County residents, that's who we're looking for. Again, be thoughtful. I found it a little difficult, actually, because, I have a lot of priorities, as I'm sure other people do too. But yes, I encourage everyone to do that, please.
But please, let's have a strong showing from Harpers Ferry.
Yes.
So I really appreciate everyone's input on that survey. Okay, our last item is the Sports Complex Convention Center, which you might have heard. It is a feasibility study, and Mary Catherine, you sit on that committee as well. Okay, so she's going to give you the background on that.
Right. So what I can tell you is that we did have a formalized several-hour meeting with Thrasher, who's the engineering firm, and then the sports facility company that develops complexes. I will say that it was very impressive. The different, they've done this across the country, and each community, it seems like a lot of it is customized to what their particular needs are. if you all wanted to look at a recent project, they have referenced Mount Airy, oh, Rocky Mount, North Carolina, as an option. But certainly lots of ways to be set up and things to contemplate. Again, very early in the stages with that, but we are moving forward. That meeting was in mid-March, and so I'm anticipating that we should have something back from them by the end of May, early June would be my expectation on that.
And
So again, that's moving too.
a little bit more background, again, they're looking for it to be
Really capturing the whole, sports industry or travel sports industry. So many families in the area have reported about, they're going to other locations. Typically, it's a 4-hour radius is kind of what you can expect. So for us, that's getting us definitely up into Pennsylvania, certainly down into Virginia. So a pretty good, and Northern Virginia, and of course, the metro area.
Yeah,
So we hope to,
being a competitive soccer mom for many, many years,
Yes.
I know that a sports complex to this magnitude could be highly beneficial to this area for the hotels, restaurants, B&Bs, and all of the above. So it could be a tourist. I'm coming here as a tourist, but I'm also coming here as a sports tourist because my child has to compete, and then maybe we'll go enjoy the sights. So, but they're trying to make that a sports complex / convention center.
so given because sports, most of tournaments and activities are going to be happening on weekends, so they want to make sure that this facility would be used locally for local activities. But the convention center alternative to give us more space than maybe we have available currently, and therefore I think it's more like during the week activities could be used at that center. I just from previous experience, I would want to make sure that the convention center feels like that. And so, that's kind of on my list, so to speak, I think there's a need, but just, I don't want it to be too sportsy on that side of it, but we should be able to convert to do events and other activities so that we're using it throughout the week as well. And everyone has said, when they travel, of course they make it usually a destination for the family. So they look into activities that they can do while they're here, in addition to, as Roberta mentioned, would be, the hotels and the dining and everything else that's associated, the visiting the parks.
Right.
Yes.
So those two key items, item number 1A and 2B, kind of think of those when you're answering their survey. Okay, kind of think about what we just maybe giving an update on when you're interested.
Just curious, is scoping location part of it, or have locations already been looked at?
Yes, no, not at this point. So I would anticipate that certainly has been part of the conversation. I too am a bit anxious because there's some great spots that are for sale now that, but until we have the feasibility study, there's not really, much we can do to move that forward. So it's just trying to encourage them to move along and get us, the information that's needed as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's some nice places that are out there.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Zach.
Oh, first off, thanks for the report. I think it's really good to have the awareness of what's going on in the
Yes.
county. And then related to that, I had heard that there had been some action at the county level to change the way the municipalities in Jefferson County are represented on the JCBA. Could you speak to that a little bit? And give any update on
Yeah, so just briefly, so right now we currently are operating under 2012 bylaws. There was a change at the state level in how development authorities are organized, and basically they took out all designations that are being required. So, that's what the state code is currently. We have not, it will be on an agenda item in the coming months. We certainly have, heard from the public and, from you all as well. But we'll just have to see where that goes, I guess. I mean, I would like to have representation, but again, if it's not part of the code, then, what happens in the end, so.
And maybe what's happening is it may be the same number of board members, but they're not going to specifically say 3 of those or 4 or
Correct.
5 of those are reserved for the municipality. So if you see this on the planning commission agenda or
It would actually be on the county commission's
County
agenda.
commission
not the planning commission.
please come and support. I have greatly appreciated your opportunity to give me to join this group, and they're an amazing group, and I'm learning a lot, and I really feel Harper's Ferry needs a strong representation. So,
I'll echo that. I think it's critically important that we maintain municipal representation.
Regarding two B,
yes, sir.
2B.
Mhm.
Is JCDA going to interface with Jefferson County Parks and Rec Commission on that?
So the feasibility study is a collaboration between the Jefferson County Commission currently and the Development Authority. But certainly Parks and Recs is a stakeholder. There are lots of stakeholders. So, they have, and they actually were part of that initial conversation. So, certainly they're being included. But this feasibility study itself and the money to pay for that is coming from the JCDA and the Jefferson County Commission.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions? Thank you, Roberta.
Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate your time. All right, let's go to town reports, 5A. Treasurer's reports and approval, review and approval of financial reports, March 2024. Is that it?
I think that fits under, even though it's understood that it would be for the present fiscal year.
Representing 3/4 of fiscal year Division 5. General fund operating income is 77% of projected, and expenses are just about 80%. With March marking the end of the third fiscal quarter and tax receipts anticipated in April, the expenses versus income will become more even in April. Filter right now. In waterworks, this is revision 2. Billing income is approximately 75%, expenses 71.5%. Later this evening, you will be reviewing fiscal 25 revision 3, and then so the fiscal 26 water budget for approval. Any questions?
Just any signs of any economic slowdown at this point?
No, I think we're tracking, the way it should be. That I have taken it when I was preparing this. I did go ahead and take a look at April to see those tax receipts. Things seem to be in good order. The municipal tax seems right on the money. So far I feel solid about it. Yeah.
I move to approve the financial reports as submitted.
Second on the motion, second, is that discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve, raise your hand. Opposed, 0. Motion carries 6-0.
All right, so the next thing is the invoices for approval. There's 2, they're very folder. Look at them. One of them I want to point out is for the group up there for the parks, and that was supposed to come out in 96. We didn't have a general fund, but I have already written anticipating reimbursement check for that to come back out in 96, and that's in the draft folder. So that will get corrected this year. Moving on.
Move to approve the invoices and purchases as submitted.
Second, Chris, discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries 5-1.
Now we are on to resolution number 7 for the water distribution project that is firmly underway. This is resolution number 7, the town of Harper's Ferry, including invoices relating to the construction and other services for the water project and authorizing payment thereof. Whereas the town of Harper's Ferry has reviewed the invoices attached here to and incorporated herein by reference in relation to the construction of the water project funded by the West Virginia Water Development Authority EECD funds and CNB Bank Construction Trust funds and funds. 1, that none of the items for which payment is proposed has been requested from another source. 2, that each item for which the payment is proposed to be paid is or was necessary in connection with the project and constitutes a cost of the project. 3, that each of such costs have been otherwise properly incurred for. That payment for each of the items is due and owed. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the town of Harper's Ferry, by the town council of Harper's Ferry, that the payment of the attached invoices as summarized below are hereby authorized and directed. GD&S from CNB funds $24,197.29. TerraWorks from WDA grant funds $838,543.80 for a total of $862,000. $741.09, adopted by the Council of Town of Harpers Ferry, the meeting held on the 12th day of May 2025.
I move to approve WDA grant resolution number 7 as submitted.
Second, Chris, discussion. Roberta?
I think we had a concern when the first payment came in that we needed some other documentation to follow these payments. And so we needed, I guess, confirmation by someone that what percentage of this is this of the project? Okay. I think the last payment we had said it was like 25%. And I think you had even agreed with me, Mayor, on the last meeting that we did need this supporting documentation. So again, I don't see that documentation here unless I'm missing it.
I'd be happy to help you with that. If you look at the page that
Okay.
you have in hand one right now,
Yes.
and you see the following numbers on the right,
Yes.
the original contract number,
Yes.
3.29 million.
Yes.
And then if you go down, to the very bottom
Right.
of those set of numbers, the
Okay.
amount for this application is
Right.
838,000, and the balance to finish, including retained, is 1.6 million.
Right.
So we're about halfway.
So you're
And the
50%.
person who authorizes this is the engineer, also signed on that paper in the lower left-hand corner.
Okay.
This has also been reviewed by Region 9. Region 9 compiles our resolution, presents this to me for exactly as it is. They write the date in and everything, and they approve everything that we are moving along to the budget, and that these numbers fit our budget that we have proposed to not only CMB Bank, but the water development authority.
Okay. And I'm not trying to be adversarial. I just putting stuff on the record, to be quite honest with you.
And
That we're at 50% of the project, and that's fabulous, because the project's moving quite quickly, I can see. And, congratulations to all parties involved. So, that's all I wanted to put on the record, that we're at 50%. Thank you.
Thank you, Roberta. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed, 0. Motion carries 6-0. Discussion and action regarding this 2024, 2025, 2026 CDS funding.
Okay, so 2024 is the, oh, wait a minute, let me give a small update on the WDA project, which is part of number 1, which is not the resolution. And Steve's gonna provide details, as you said, about the progress of the project. From a budgeting perspective, we are still waiting on the change orders that were discussed in last month's meeting. The delay is due to the pricing of the components that are in pressure to control, which, if you recall, was being designed. Once those change orders have come forward, they may be a need for a special town council meeting to get those approved so they can move along. The pressure is involved likely going to create a delay to close the project in its entirety. It is likely that those components, once they order them, they may not be here until the fall. And so what is being proposed is sort of a 2-part closing where everything that is done to substantial completion in a particular moment, probably coming in late May, June, is going to be, then we'll have a partial substantial closing and completion. And then in the fall, this will come up again, and the whole project will be closed once the PRV is done. So just so that you know, even though we're 50% through, there's going to be a delay due to this particular issue. Okay, on fiscal 25, which is the meter project, the EPA is reviewing our applications, providing second certification requirements, and also some training. And so there's a lot of parts of this that I did not know were going to happen. The disappointing news is that's causing a little bit of delay getting the whole thing going. None of it's bad, it just takes time. The good news is that all the other CDS applications that we are making are also through the EPA. So once this gets done, it'll be really easy to say we have all our stuff for these things in the coming years, and it won't take a long time. Once all of that comes together and we're ready to review the bid again, council will have to come together for a meeting. It isn't quite a time with the regular meeting. Title VI policy is in their hands. I'm waiting for some feedback on that. And again, once that gets completed, we'll put that on the meeting. Okay, so fiscal 26 and 27. Fiscal 26 submissions have been made to Senator Capito, Senator Justice, Congressman Marlon Moore, for a project in the amount of $7.3 million for the next phase of distribution system project. If that project is funded and able to be completed within budget, that will complete all the components of the distribution system project. as we have learned along the way, that's not always terribly likely, but we do our best. And if that is the case, once we get a little closer to fiscal 27, congressionally directed spending submissions next winter, we'll look for the final phase then to be engineering the parts that haven't been engineered and putting that into a package. Any questions on that?
Just to correct the
Roberta.
record, the agenda doesn't say 2027, so is that a problem for her to discuss some of that from now? Or do we need to strike that from her?
I think it's of a whole.
Fine.
If we were to take action, that would probably do it.
All right, thanks.
Anything else on that? Okay. Debbie, or revision 3?
And just to bring you up to date on the new and replace fund. Little bit bigger here for you. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So if you recall earlier in the year, we sat down and looked at the replace and came up with a plan based on funds that were available. 204,000. There were several projects that we wanted to get done. Those are over here on the left, and they all together total this 6,700 up here, plus the 32,900 right here. And then we had some additional projects that we thought we might be working on. So 26 with that, so that's 50, 60, about $70,000. Then we also were planning to do $100,000 of our new replace fund to match the meter project. Okay, so if we had done all of those things, we would have been left with about $90,000. Okay, so so what has happened is we have performed a lot of this work. Some of it, one item was paid out of the water revenue service because of our not meter replacement revenue fund, because part of that in homeowner reimbursed us for, so they don't want that mixed up in our renew and replace. These were the projects that were selected to do and the actual billing amounts that were paid out of. Throughout the year, some things popped up that we weren't expecting. Sorry. There is too many pieces around here. All right, the laterals and wall work for the sidewalk work, 270 High Street, Washington Street curb stop repair. There is the Cavalier Estates new line that in the yellow has not been built, so what you see on the side is going to be an estimate. Paul Cartney and Washington Street emergency also will be an estimate, and there is probably coming later this month, 240 High Street service line on the sidewalk. So all of that together, 75,000. So the ones that have actually been billed and paid out for new and replace are in this column, coming out of 49,000, plus the ones that we think we're going to have to do brings us to 66. Okay, so if you go back and see what actually happened, when you started with 196,000, the governor's office, as we are told, and you'll believe at this moment, is picking up that $100,000 match for us. So they're taking that out. We've got the 66,000 that was paid. We anticipate collecting 27,000, so that brings us back to 157,000 to start fiscal 26. Okay, so just want you to keep that in mind as you turn your attention now to the budget revision that we are provided packet, because the 66,000 is what's going to be in the renew and replace income line. So I just wanted you to see what happened with the over the year and scan coming into 26.
Zach?
Just a quick question. Is there any requirement, or do we shoot for a certain percentage of the total budget to be renewed?
So the state requirement by the bond, the legal requirement of the bond is 2.5, I think it's 2.5, right on the percent of our revenues that we bring in every month. So every month we make that contribution.
Right.
There's a different formula for the cash working capital reserve fund, but the same thing happens there every month. At the end of the month, once the revenues are figured out, the accounts check on those numbers, send me an email, say, "You're gonna do this month."
That's it. Thank you.
All right, so revision 3. For revision 3 in fiscal 25, income changes occurred in interest, UTAP fees, and renew and replace, which we just looked at. And then in expenses, the adjustments reject there were adjustments made to fine tune the end of the year. You'll notice a significant change in maintenance and base contracted services to allow for work that we just discussed, in that summary. And then you'll note there's an increase in 427.3 municipal bonds. So if you recall, when we went back to making the bond with CNB, we were anticipating a bond to decrease in April. We got that from another bond commission. I called in April. They said it's not going to decrease till July. I got some actual figures on that, so I feel confident with that number. But that means we had to add a few things. So you'll see that slight increase. Plant salaries have increased, and we'll notice that plant maintenance contracted services have decreased to indicate the shift in personnel that are operating the water plant. Office hours have also been affected due to unanticipated demands of the water construction project on those folks. However, there are significant drop in plant chemicals and supervisor as well. Any questions otherwise?
I move to approve fiscal year 25 revision 3 as submitted.
Second, Chris, discussion. All those in favor of the motion to approve? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
The next one's fiscal 26. So there's a 4% increase overall on the fiscal 26 budget due to a revenue trend that has been tracking a little bit higher than anticipated throughout the year. So I'm hoping that holds till the end of the year. A modest amount has also been contributed in renew and replace to offset some potential needs that we might have in the coming year for that. Once new meters are installed and we have data to project changes that they may generate, then the budget is revised at that time. In expenses, you will note significant changes in debt service due to the following: 1, vehicle loans paid off in 2025. The $4,500 per month to the municipal bond that I just discussed will drop off in July. And also in November, the full monthly payment for the 2024 Series A bond will begin. In staffing, you'll see an increase in plant salaries that is offset by a decrease in plant maintenance contracted services as planned. Office salaries have been heavily weighed in anticipation of some technical needs and software needs that may be required in the metering system. And all of this is based on not utilizing Charlotte River water for processing, which we know would affect chemicals. We deal with that as it comes. Any questions there?
I move to approve the fiscal year 26 waterworks budget as submitted.
Second, Chris, discussion. All those in favor of the motion to approve? Opposed? 0. Motion carries 6-0.
So the next item is discussion and action regarding fiscal year 26 pay scales for town employees. So each,
All right, I think I should probably recuse myself for this one. It involves pay for employees. And then,
Yes.
Yeah. I'll step out.
We'll call it the next one too, so we'll just call it after the second.
oh yeah, the vote really.
Go ahead, Storm.
All right, each year we recognize all the town's employees.
Your pay scale.
Pay scale.
Oh, yes, okay. So I believe we've already gone through the increases in the pay scale a lot ahead of things. And this is, we have our step increases. We did alter the steps for the finance officer position that was approved. And that is just moving everyone along who is qualified to do so, as well as the 5% COLA that we had previously passed. So this is just formally adopting it into the budget. And this will start with the next fiscal year, which is July 1, 2025. So I move to adopt the fiscal year 26 pay scales, including 5% COLA, starting July 1, 2025, as presented.
Is there a second on the motion? We have a second from Chris. Discussion. All those in favor of the motion to approve? Opposed? 0. Motion carries 5-0. Now, Storm.
Now, Roberta?
I just want 5-0, 1 absent and 1 abstain, so I don't know if we need to record that.
No
Alright.
abstaining, that's not counted.
Recorded as recused.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, we can, sorry.
discussion and action regarding fiscal year continuous service recognition program. So each year we recognize all of our employees through this program, which grants them each employee who is in good standing with a payment based on their number of continuous years of service. And I think we adopted this 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Prior to that, some towns would have mechanisms for doing bonuses, and then we looked at the law and said, well, we can't do that. That is illegal. And this is a method that we can reward our employees, assuming that they have satisfactory performance and this continuous service. So I would like to move to approve the continuous service recognition program for fiscal year 25 for all qualifying employees as presented.
There's a second on the motion, second from Chris, discussion. Roberta,
Quick question, and where this service recognition program is outlined is employee manual, employee handbook manual?
Believe it
It's its own policy, defined at the auditor's office recommendation. Yeah.
Okay, and it's not an ordinance or anything under town ordinance, it's strictly a policy? Okay. But it's not an employee handbook?
It's not formally in the employee handbook. Yeah, I think when the employee handbook is redone, it will become a component, but the policy itself is probably outside of the handbook.
Okay, thank you.
other discussion?
If you want, I will summarize that, 3 new employees, that you have to be employed 3 continuous years before you receive the reward, and then you're rewarded for the 3 years that you work. So we have 3 employees who joined the ranks this year, and overall the employees, the full amount being paid out will be about $55,000. So,
Thank you, Debbie. All those in favor of the motion to approve?
One quick, we're approving the dollar amount also,
No.
because you didn't mention the dollar.
No, you don't need to.
Okay,
That's
okay,
as a market calculation.
Okay, that's fine, sorry.
All right.
I approve.
Okay. And opposed, none, motion carries 5-0.
Discussion and action regarding the purchase of a tough tablet for the Harpers Ferry Police Department. So previously, Town Council had approved purchasing 5 tough tablets. It turns out that we are only required to purchase 1. And we were presented with an opportunity to purchase one from the county at a very good deal on short notice. So that was done, and it was done in fiscal year 25. Originally, it was going to be in fiscal year 26. However, it will be a large net savings, and the amount for the tough tablet is $3,100. And in the interest of just in case something comes up, I move to spend up to $3,300 to pay for 1 tough tablet upgrade.
Second on the motion, second from Chris. Discussion, Roberta.
What I'm saving? Dollar amount I'm saving?
12,000. Wow.
Yeah,
We
it's a
only
good.
need 1 instead of 5.
Congratulations, nice job. Okay, thank
And also note that we already had that money left in the budget
Yeah,
for 25.
We had put that in our budget, so
Yep.
that is something that could be moved around in the full department.
Other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Discussion and action regarding fiscal year 25 for EPTA Public Transit. So this is for us, the bus service that comes down and through town and serves us, and also has a flag stop capability. You can actually flag down the bus as it goes by. If it is safe for it to do so, it will. I move to distribute $3,500 previously allocated to EPTA for fiscal year 25 out of 402 Economic Development, and $4,500 from 759 Public Transportation.
Second on the motion, second from Zach. Discussion, Roberta.
So let me go back to your comment. So we sat here and had a presentation by EPTA. And she said we had a very flexible bus service. Someone can go, hey, stop and pick me up. Hey, come pick me up from my house. We don't have that?
We do.
Okay, so you said that,
That's one of its features.
but maybe I misunderstood what you said, that we couldn't flag them down.
No, you can't.
We can,
Yes.
okay, all right, strike my comment. All right, thank you.
Other discussion? All those in favor of the motion to approve? Opposed, motion carries 6-0.
Discussion and action regarding funding for Friendship Fire Company. So this is the annual contribution that we make, and it comes out of two places. We assign the coal severance fund, which comes through the state, as well as funds from the general fund in support of our fire company. I move to distribute $1,305 to the Friendship Fire Company out of coal severance fund and $4,000 for the general fund to the Friendship Fire Company for fiscal year 25 against line item 706, Fire Department's contribution.
Second on the motion, second, Chris, discussion. Zach?
At one point, we were discussing this early on. There was talk of making it contingent on a regular report from the fire company, and it would get the police report pretty regularly. Is that something you include at this point?
We should,
Sure.
said that before, I forgot.
Yeah, we can.
I can reach out to the chief.
Sure.
Other discussion? All those in favor of the motion? Opposed, motion carries 6-0. Storm?
Discussion and action regarding funding for the Bolivar Harpers Ferry Public Library. Same thing, these are amounts previously allocated. And we previously approved and sent along funding for arts programming. This amount is for their regular operations. So I move to distribute $4,500 previously allocated to the Bolivar Harpers Ferry Public Library for fiscal year 25 out of 916 library fund.
Second on the motion, second, Zach, discussion. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed, motion carries 6-0. Police report, chief?
I'm not gonna read the report verbatim. Are there any questions or concerns about the report? I'd just like to.
Hold up the microphone, Tom.
I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank, the council for supporting the police department, with updating the equipment. We've received our radios, which were over 25 years old. And now we're, replacing some tasers that were 20 years old. So I appreciate that support. And even with the, top hat, it gets greatly appreciated. We try to serve the community well and represent the, best for our building. I would also like to say that we will be having a meet and greet, annual meet and greet tomorrow afternoon at 5, Wednesday, I'm sorry, thought they was Tuesday. Wednesday afternoon at 5:30. Weather permitting, we'll be outside. If not, we'll be utilizing the space, next door to the police department to host, everybody to come in, visit with the police officers and get to know them. Like I said, I just want to say thank you for the support that you give us and allowing us to serve the community to the best of our ability.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, John. You have your OCO report. If you all have any questions, let me know. I'll reach out to Kev. Planning Commission, Zach?
No major planning commission report. We're still, well, we finished the combined edits comprehensive plan. We're going to work towards prioritizing the goals, and then it goes to public hearing, hopefully within the next month. So stay tuned. I don't have a date for any of that yet, because we still have at least one meeting to get things prioritized, and then probably a bit of time to work with our representative from WVU to get everything spruced up aesthetics wise for a report that we can turn in.
You think the hearing will be in June?
I think our aim is June. Depending on how long it takes us to prioritize things, it could slip to July, but aiming for June. Yeah, it's been a while. What was it?
Yep, allotment adjustment.
Yeah, so this is, we should switch this at the top of the meeting to just be discussion on the lot line adjustment, mostly because we haven't received the updated version with all the signatures. This is, if you recall from last month, a lot line adjustment for 189 High Street, involving at least three different property owners, so all three need to sign off on the final plat. So we're waiting on that. We discussed it again at Planning Commission after Town Council granted us the authority to do so, and again voted to move this forward once those signatures are there. Noting a couple things, and Roberta, catch me if I miss something. We did never receive a full OCO report on this particular lot line adjustment. Planning Commission, the majority of Planning Commission were content to vote in favor of this regardless. But it might behoove us before the council approves it to have Kevin just double check the survey markers down there. I was actually down there this weekend, and I'm not sure if it's a survey marker related to this survey or not, but it looks like maybe one of the corner markers is in a paper street as opposed to on the boundary of paper street. So it'd be good to double check, but we're not moving forward with this until we see those signatures. I don't think we legally can. So, Okay.
Discussion action regarding approval of municipal boundary.
yeah, this came from the state via Deb and the mayor. We were asked to review a digital map, an ArcGIS project for the town boundary, so that they're asking all municipalities in the state to review their boundary so that they're accurate when assessing taxes. We're fortunate in that our zoning map is based on a GIS project from the Park Service, so this is the exact same boundary. We reviewed it in detail at the last Planning Commission meeting. I think for some smaller municipalities that don't have that resource, so it's a good way to double check. I think we noted a couple random things like the Hilltop House structure is still noted as a taxable structure, even though it's no longer there. But the boundary itself is good, and so we recommend that we approve that tonight. I think we have some signatures, so I move to approve the tax boundary as presented by the state tax division.
There's second on the motion, second, Chris, discussion. Roberta.
Yes, and when this was presented to the planning commission, I kind of voiced a concern. Because we're just looking at a couple pieces of paper and a Xerox copy or two, and maybe a GIS map on the screen. So I personally don't feel comfortable. I personally didn't feel comfortable approving the planning commission. I still don't feel comfortable approving it tonight because I'm not a GIS specialist. I'm not a GIS confirmation of legal boundaries, and I have checked everything on that map. That is absolutely positively correct. So I'm very uncomfortable approving that boundary tonight without having maybe a professional, someone at a more professional level look at it and tell us, yes, it meets it because I'm a professional and I do this on a 9 to 7 days a week job, and I can confirm that your information is absolutely correct and up to date. My reservations.
Other discussion?
Just what led planning commission to determine that the ArcGIS that was submitted by the state matched the one with the park.
Well, comparison with the zoning map that we have here, they match. And then also, we're fortunate also that 2/3 of our borders are water. So the boundary is sort of a geographic feature as opposed to it's a natural geographic feature as opposed to a mapped geographic feature. So for the remaining third, it's just looking at each of the properties and making sure that if it's a property that is in Harpers Ferry on our map and on the county tax map, that it is also the same here. And because they are identical boundaries, it was very easy to do. And again, this is just to make sure that all of the property boundaries within Harpers Ferry are accounted for in the state tax map. And yeah, this is, from my perspective, very straightforward because we're fortunate that this work was already established a while ago, and it's very easy to cross-check.
Other discussion? All those in both? Let's try that again. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. Opposed? Motion carries 5-1.
And with the second, Chris.
Thank you.
Landmarks, no one here for the report. Water, Steve?
So, all right, so as already mentioned, with the project, the main replacement project going on, big thing today was work being done at the foot of Columbia and Washington Street, across from the gazebo. We were essentially looking to make sure that the 10-inch main was extended beyond Columbia Street. That would enable any work being done up at the head of Columbia to be able to bring a sizable line down and connect in there. It was appropriate time to dig this up and look and see what was there and get this all done. And it would fit within the project. So in order to do that, the water had to be shut off from pretty much this building running all the way down to the point. We got notices out. We worked with Park Service on this, so they were aware of what was going on. We distributed flyers to residents. We thought that on Fillmore Street that they would still be served through a much smaller 2-inch main that would have been able to get water up there. We found that that was not necessarily the case. I think this also was over on Cliff Street. So those folks were caught a little bit by surprise in terms of, instead of low flow, no flow, they are in a boil water notice. Everybody's in a boil water notice. The job was done on schedule. We had the lines flushed and the sample drawn by, I think, about 3:30. Well, by 3:30 this afternoon, so we had time to get the sample over to the lab. Hopefully we'll get a result back tomorrow. Worst case, we'll get a result back on Wednesday. Then that will enable us to lift the boil water notice. We were planning to then do work on Church Street, but given the, I think it took them a little bit longer than anticipated today, so they weren't able to move the end of the day down there, but also with the weather that is forecasted for the next couple of days, they've decided, the contractor working with the engineer has decided that instead of going down and grappling with Church Street this week, they'll just return back up to the Point Field area on the other side of 340 and finish up some of the work that they're doing over there. Minimal impact over here. So Church Street would be next week. Ideally, any of the, they'll be able to isolate that so there won't be a major shut off. The rest of it seems to, the work on Point Field's going well. I believe, I have to confirm this, but I think they're done on the Columbia Street up, what kind of Columbia Street, Bolivar County, up at the other end of the street. I believe that work is all done and tied in. I just have to kind of confirm that all those services have been connected and that the old mains in that area shut off. So I think that's kind of where we stand on that score. I don't have lost water numbers for you this month. It just got a little bit too complicated to keep track or to pull together real quickly. Let me put it that way. All the flushing and all the rest. That's water that we had to produce that went out, onto the ground. But it's not considered to be lost water. Unaccounted for water. We know where it went, what it was used for. But it complicates the data somewhat. Two other things. One is that I did talk to, if you recall, we have put a 3-inch, it's not ultrasonic, electromagnetic meter and newer technology meter over in the Bolivar Court Apartments. That's been in place now, I think maybe about, it's been in place at least over 6 months. We've had it, we had it calibrated, I think, about 6 months ago. The manufacturer came back, they told me that they could send somebody out with, his laptop. He could connect to the meter and pull all the data off the meter. And what he was able to show is that within certain bins of gallons per minute, he could tell me how much water had passed through the meter. So if you think about your garden hose, that's at about very high gallons per minute, whereas the water that you're getting out of your refrigerator, for a glass of water, that's at very low gallons per minute. And he was basically able to segment this up into bins. The data he showed me was that we are charging for, we are able to charge now for about 10% more water that's passing through that meter, then we would have been able to actually definitely 10%, closer to 15%, because the way his bins have broken up, than what we were able to charge for with, the older style meter. So carrying that forward, looking at the whole meter project, they're saying that they think that the payback term would be about 4 years. And, with this kind of information, we will be able to pull this kind of information off the small meters as well. He showed me another community that suggests that, this works for the small meters as well as the large meters. So that was, pretty interesting, and it does kind of give us some real world data there that we can really plan on. And then one other item here, just as an alert for that you guys are all aware, the mayor is aware of all this, my employees are aware of all this, but I did implement GPS tracking on all of the department vehicles. At this point, I'm collecting the first round of data, and my intention is to sit down with the mayor, and we will review that and then determine or figure out what we're going to do to kind of set some policies around what we're seeing with that data. Right?
Zach.
I'm glad the work at the intersection of Columbia and Washington went relatively smoothly today. But we also lost a tree there. So I just wanted to double check. We have ordinances on the books that generally state that trees need to be protected during excavation and construction. So do you anticipate any other tree removal necessary for this?
None that I anticipate. I will talk to the foreman.
Okay.
I know that at the time they just weren't able to get their equipment in between and around that tree. And to be honest with you, they were had half the town out of water. They were moving on their schedule, and that tree just came down.
Yep. But hopefully we, as a council, can get a new tree planted. We'll consult with the tree committee at some point.
Yeah,
I think it was like
that's on the state's right away, wasn't it, Steve?
Yeah, all of this is on the state's right away. Yeah. It's all stuff that's
But
been
still,
planned.
we can do that, so.
And just a quick follow-up, that reviewing it, or looking at it on the way up to the meeting, it looked like the repaving may or may not have been up to the standard of some of the other repaving that's been done. So I don't know if that's the final surfacing.
Okay, I would kind of seriously doubt that they're finished on their cleanup. I think that the emphasis today was get the water, turned back on for the customers.
I'll check it.
Okay.
But
Yep.
yeah, we can, I haven't seen them do much paving. I'm surprised in a way that, they put hot top, but I would imagine at this point, this is a preliminary, cover. I've seen in other places, they've actually ground up the asphalt that they dug out, and then they put it back down and they compact it. And that's what they've done in the interim with the idea that they're going to come back and hot top it later.
Thank you.
Okay, but I don't know exactly what their plan is.
Chris?
That increase of 10% is nice for the income of the waterworks, but it could also be pretty painful for quite a few households in our waterworks. But it's my understanding that we're still looking at meters that customers will be able to track their use and watch that. So
Potentially that feature set is on there. One of the things that the manufacturer, this particular manufacturer, was telling me about the small meters, said he sent me information and said that I think he said the EPA has something out there that says that 1 out of every 2 houses has a 90 gallon per day leak in the house. Okay, and that these meters, it's very small. Okay, 0.06 gallons per minute. Okay, these meters detect that. Now the customer is having to pay for that leak. He said about half of them tend to fix it, and the other half figure, we'll just pay the money. Pay for what? Yeah.
thank you.
Okay.
Anything else for Steve? Okay, thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
ORC, Roberta?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So I've distributed down the table, my report number 11. So kind of just hit some highlights. We're still working on our data, and I think I'm gonna cut off to update the data from 2000 to 2025. So trying to get back all the way to the history of this town. So item number 1, I should have that completed next month and turn those records officially over to Nina. And I greatly appreciate Nina's and Melissa's help to get all the data for me. Unfinished business. We're still looking at 2 items there. Chris and I just started item 2B. We're looking at some of those code references that were updated on West Virginia codes, and we'll present hopefully ordinance. May not make it for this administration, but we'll pass the work on to the next administration to get those ordinance done and code updated. We were presented with new business from the administration and OCO regarding section 735.39, still temporary special event vendors, but it's different. They're wanting to put maybe a definition there for garage sales, or come up with a situation where we define garage sales and determine how many times a year that's allowed. And Chris has volunteered to work on researching draft language for that. Pending business, we still haven't received anything from the tree commission. We still haven't seen anything from town council or the town attorney regarding updates on legislation from last year, but save that for the next administration. Let's see, same thing with that. The one other thing I really want to talk about is item E, where we talk about the FEMA floodplain ordinance maps. Again, Chris and I are drafting the review for that and drafting the ordinance language for that against the FEMA template that we've been giving us, a state template. So we're looking at that against our current Article 1711 and kind of putting it in our town format. And so we should have that ready. I did speak to our contact with the FEMA state official today. He says there has been no letter of final determination issued yet. He sees it forthcoming, but they have been delayed as well, getting things done. So once we get that letter of final determination for Jefferson County, we will still have 6 months to go through the process to get our ordinance up to date. But again, that means public meetings, the language written, and so that's why the ORC has taken a full jump ahead. And I appreciate Chris's Craig work on this and starting to get it done. So again, that is something that will more than likely be turned over to the next administration. So you guys thank you. So thank you.
Any questions for Roberta? Thank you, Roberta. All right, let's move to dark skies. Storm, are you going to take this for a while, or Zach? Or?
Yeah, I'll speak to it, and Zach can chime in. We also have the chair of the committee here tonight, Karen Sagisi. Thanks for being here. Oh, and Kathy, we have the spot. Sorry, I was looking off my notes. They're not actually looking at your faces. I'll do a brief summary. I'll also have a presentation teed up. It's quite detailed. I'm not going to march through every bit of it unless that's what the council in room wants, in which case I'm happy to do it. So, as described at the last meeting, there was the open house that was held on April 3rd. And on that same day, an online survey was sent out to the public. And there was very good response to that survey. So a total of 43 people took the online survey. 3/4 of them were town residents. That was one of the questions. And among the town residents, about 1/3 had also been at the open house. So we did get input from a significant number of people beyond people that were at the open house. And just in general, before we go through the presentation itself, there was some consensus agreement among the people who took the survey about some specific policies, and there was stark polarization on others. In particular, there's consensus for the committee. Well, I'm ahead of myself at this point because I crossed up my notes. Okay. Consensus among the committee is to develop an ordinance that will have an immediate and actionable and meaningful steps, and that will at least outline a path towards dark sky international best practices. And let me just go ahead and come around and go through. Oops, sorry. Can everybody see that?
Gotta have dark skies from dark skies.
Oh, yeah, that's right. These lights are notably not dark sky compliant. In the background, that this survey was developed based on the current work of the Dark Skies Committee, including feedback from a stakeholder meeting. And all these questions were approved, reviewed and approved by the committee, posted on Google Forms of public and publicized decently. So just a graph showing that indeed a little more than 3/4 of folks had not attended the open house. And among them, about 3/4 were Harpers Ferry residents, and that represents roughly 12% of the town's population. So that's pretty meaningful. There are some distinctions I'll point out as we get through it. And I'm going to skip over the detailed pages that go behind the graphs unless anybody wants to linger over them. And I did send this to all of town council if you want to review it later. In most cases, yeah, the collective responses from full-time residents were not much at all different from survey participants. There was broad support for adopting new responsible lighting practices to protect or enhance the ability to see the night sky. However, there was some sharp polarization on particular policy options, especially in the enforcement section. And I'll note that I did the survey primarily looking at resident responses, but they weren't that much different. First major question, please indicate how much you agree with each of the following statements about general lighting. So on the whole, there was a lot of agreement among full-time residents. So as mentioned, the support for enhancing the view of the night sky. Also, a lot of support for having adequate lighting for safe walking after dark. They did, on the whole, express concerns about excessive or harsh light traveling across property lines and about the effect on the natural environment and excessive light from other jurisdictions. The one polarizing thing was if there should be adequate lighting for civic and business practices. And this is the graph that shows it. If you don't look at graphs a lot, and that may not make a lot of sense. But outlined in purple, it's showing that polarization. The red represents folks that strongly disagree with that statement about there being enough, that there should be enough lighting for civic places and businesses. And the blue at the bottom represents those who strongly agree with it. So that is going to shape how we put together the ordinance and how town council will think about it, and a preview of how it might be received by the public on any given thing. So that's a little bit about polarization. I'm going to skip over the detail, although I'll point out, you can see there are 8 people that strongly agree that they're concerned there won't be enough light for those, and 7 who strongly agree or strongly disagree with that. Next question, how familiar are you with the latest responsible lighting practices, such as those from Dark Sky International and LEED, as well as some other wide policy choices? So among full-time residents who were not at the open house, they were much less familiar with these practices than those who were. So among those who weren't at the open house, 21% it was completely new. And then beyond that, 63% were somewhat familiar. And that is important because among the committee, when we're discussing it, we feel once you know what these practices are, you may recognize they may not be that onerous, but education is going to be critical in anything that we do. So it's likely, but not certain, that most town residents may not necessarily know what would be required to, say, achieve dark sky certification. So there was strong support for that, but if you don't know what that takes when it comes down to policy choices, it's hard to say how people would feel. So please indicate your opinion of the town's current lighting levels. And it was, sorry, this is very small. but that's on the whole and also for each of the major streets and sections of streets. And on the whole, the consensus opinion was it was about right. And the two exceptions were, on the whole, you can see this stubby little line. So 5-0 right here, this means that's about right on the scale. It's a 1 to 10 scale, and 5 is just great. So if it's under that, to this side, it indicates that statistically among respondents that it was too bright. And this is Potomac Street, and this scale is actually doesn't start at 0. So it's not a true representation of the distances, but it did indicate that somewhat too bright for Potomac Street and somewhat inadequate for Washington Street. And other than that, it was pretty consistent. Again, this is pretty small, but council members, if you look at the detailed presentation, you can see that those were the two areas that deviated substantially from just about right. And I'm going to skip over the comments, but I'll just summarize it by saying the comments were did point out some specific areas, and it more or less matched what the quantitative data showed. Do you know how to report the street light that is out? Most were just curious about that. The answer is you wouldn't have to. And this is among the things that the town would want to be able to promote some more once a policy is passed. Questions about fixtures, bulbs, and enforcement. So full-time residents were solidly in favor of requiring newly installed lights to conform to new town dark sky standards. So that one was pretty clear. But opinion was highly polarized about whether non-conforming lights should be required to be replaced within a set period of time. So that would be a policy that says, okay, if any light in town needs to conform in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. Highly polarized on that particular issue. And then with enforcement, it was even sharper in polarization. But on the whole, the respondents were open to monitoring on public property, but then you can see, you can just see the percentage of strongly favored and strongly opposed. When you get to these policies of adopting advisory-only policies, well, 38% would really love that, and 28% would not be happy at all. Actively monitoring coming from private property, well, 30% really like that idea, 21% wouldn't be happy about it. Establishing financial penalties was evenly polarized. The 30% are strongly in favor and 30% opposed. And then there was just comments that people could put in. And again, it really matched what the quantitative data was. And the committee would like to submit this report for the public record so that people would be able to see the results and maybe publish it on the website in place of the survey. And I have some more comments apart from this, but that's the entirety of the presentation. Any questions just about the statistics?
Quick question, I hear you say something, I see something in writing there. Again, I'm one of those residents that are familiar with dark sky and dark sky principles and what have you, but I saw that you said dark sky you had a question there that says dark sky certification, would you like it or not? But I thought what we were really trying to achieve here is a dark sky light pollution ordinance, which might be different, which really is by language totally different than becoming dark sky certified. A dark sky ordinance is strictly for us. Dark sky certified is on a whole nother level. So hopefully the people aren't getting confused about that. We're not trying to force the dark sky certification. We're really just trying to come up with a dark sky lighting ordinance for Harpers Ferry. So I hope the survey didn't get people confused.
No, in fact, no one reacted poorly to that. And people were strongly in favor of the idea. And we looked at it because we had discussed that that is something as part of the ordinance that we could pursue, or there are certifications. So really this was because we know that most people don't know an awful lot about it. So it's as much educational as anything else. By getting that idea out there, it becomes something that you might look into.
Yes, and we want to squash the fears, really, because it is not all that difficult. You don't necessarily have to change the light fixture to become compliant. You may already be compliant if you did an evaluation, and it might be all you have to do is change the light bulb out and you're done. So I think, yes, the education, again, I believe there's a chapter in town that would be happy to educate people on what it really takes and how easy it is.
Well, the committee agrees, and I have some more comments that we discussed to present on behalf of the committee. A spoiler alert, it includes that. So the reason why we're presenting this today is we're at a point where we're ready to sit down with the ordinances that we've looked to some extent and actually pick the language. And we wanted a little bit of guidance based on where we think we want to go and get your feedback. So the committee's takeaway, based on all the feedback received from discussion and work that we've done together, is that we are looking at drafting an ordinance that will lay out clear and fair guidelines for lighting on both public and private property. So there may be standards that apply to our street lighting and standards that apply to public property, and that making sure they're clear enough for property owners to follow and for the ordinance control officer to enforce, and of course must pass legal muster. And there are further discussions about who the enforcement, how that will happen. And that both from the survey and just our own discussions, that it'll allow the town's historical radio wave fixtures and any existing historical light fixtures to be maintained. Just because we do want to make sure we're preserving our historic feel and reality in town. And another thing is on the education that even if we're not able to do the full-on, all-the-way version of what the dark sky model or lighting ordinance does, that it will at least put the town on the path towards more rigorous lighting standards. So the one that the survey seemed to indicate among respondents was pretty clear, requiring permitted projects to conform to the new standards. That seems like low-hanging fruit, and that probably would not be controversial to do. And then beyond that, when we were discussing it, that's when it becomes a little maybe more problematic without having some education and understanding from people ahead of time. And that would be things such as requiring any new lights and fixtures, regardless of if they're permitted, to conform to new standards, because that opens up a whole realm of, okay, who is going to be out there looking for these things? How is that going to be enforced? And it gets stickier. It can be done, but it'll take more work to iron that out in a way that will work all around. And then beyond that, regardless of what's adopted, educating the public will be key to success. There is, of course, an active core of dark sky enthusiasts, but knowledge and understanding of these standards are probably not widespread right now. And the committee's concerned that bringing forward an overly strict ordinance right out of the gate could invite backlash, potentially just scuttling the initiative out of the gate, and potentially inviting legal challenges if it's not constructed carefully. So in addition to adopting a few concrete measures in the ordinance, the committee is also inclined to include an upgrade path in the ordinance that future town councils could follow if it wanted to have additional standards, and to partner with local organizations to do continued outreach and education. And a couple of specific ideas that were mentioned were creating and promoting a Harpers Ferry Dark Sky compliant program, that properties that have done the work to change out their fixtures and bulbs could be certified by Dark Sky International, and then could come to the town for a sticker or a sign or something that they could display indicating that they've received the certification. And that would help spread awareness, and neighbors would talk to neighbors about it and realize that it's not a big scary thing. You can accomplish your lighting needs without massively bright and glaring lights. And then the other would be to continue, did I write this down? Yes, foster and promote astrotourism or other stargazing events, perhaps with the local organization, because that is something that, again, it can be a way to help people understand, educate, appreciate the night sky. And also, yes, and beyond that, point out that we already have dark sky compliant bulbs all along Washington Street. and that's something that's, it doesn't have to be scary. And beyond that, to continue to message to the public that it is possible and not overly difficult to have lighting that's both safe and dark sky compliant.
Thank you, Sean.
So any feedback, we're all here from the committee. As far as guidance, does it seem like we're on the right track, or things that people are hearing?
Yeah, Chris?
Yeah, well, first off, I want to thank all of you who have been working on this. It's, just a great thing. The main thing that hits me, and you're kind of saying this already, but even more directly, my comment would be that it doesn't have to be all at once, and it doesn't have to be all or nothing. That we could start with those things that are not polarized and get them on the books, and certainly the things that the town controls directly don't even need ordinances. That could just be policy. And then as the education and we determine the thoughts of the citizens and the business owners and the park, we can move forward with other things maybe.
Thank you, Chris. Roberta?
Yes, excellent, everyone. Great team effort and great report. And statistics look great. I was hoping you had more response. I think that's kind of a low response, but I guess that's average for surveys as they go, right? And the Dark Side International template ordinance does have an amortization tool already written for you. So you can change that timeline if you want it in 3 months, 6 months, 3 years, 5 years. You guys decide. And that's what it's all about, is don't scare everybody all at once. Educate them how easy it is. And if you want, what you're saying, the new construction to comply, or you want over time the residents to comply, then you set that timetable. And you can build that in the first draft out. So you're looking at page. So in 10 years, they want everybody to come in compliance. Great. That's a comfortable window of time. So, and again, Dark Sky International is there to review your ordinance, and they have already written this 1,001 times for other cities and municipalities. They have lawyers on staff. They'd be happy to look at your template once you want.
Thank you,
Thank you, Roberta. Zach?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to take in. And what we as a committee were looking at is, rather than a numerical amortization over a number of years, looking at language where as fixtures or bulbs wear out naturally over time, that their replacements should be dark sky compliant. So that way there's no point at which there's a financial burden on a property owner other than when a bulb burns out and they would have to replace it anyway. So
Yeah. Any other discussion? Well, Karen and Kathy and Storm and Zach, I want to thank the four of you, okay, for the time that you spend for all of us on here. And I know that I speak for Zach. Which one of us prevails? I know that both of us have this issue, and both of us will provide the leadership, whoever prevails, to make sure this continues. So again, thanks to all of you. Okay. Last agenda item is your alpha. And let me give a little bit of history on this. This is an engineering firm that's headquartered in Morgantown. They have an office in Martinsburg. Patty and I have been working for months and months trying to get a structural engineering firm to come here and look at two problem areas. One of the problem areas is Henry Clay. The second problem area is Fountain. Patty, through her insistence, finally we were able to latch on to a structural engineering firm to come in. And I don't know when it was, Zach, several months ago. Zach and myself and Patty met with the local structural engineer out of Martinsburg. We started on Henry Clay, spent quite a bit of time there. And then Zach had a prior equipment. He also had a prior commitment And Patty and I accompanied the engineer over to Boundary Street, which is a whole new ballgame. And we spent a lot of time over there looking at the issues on Boundary Street. That issue on Boundary just did not occur. It has been that way for decades and decades. So now what you have before you is a proposal from Alpha. They have the expertise in Morgantown, not Martinsburg, their engineering firm. They have the expertise. So what you have are two proposals. And for the Henry Clay, it's 44 and some change. And they will bring the experts from Morgantown to Henry Clay because there are some significant issues there. I know Zach will agree with it. It's just not there by the child care facility. It extends up past the house that's being remodeled. So there's some significant issues there. So the 4,700 or whatever it is, 4,300 is just a full-blown engineering report. It's not construction involved. This is what needs to be done. Would cost us $4,300. When we move over to Boundary, because of the significant issues on Boundary, which there are many, not only on drainage, but the slope and the crown of the road is just in poor condition. That is a lot more complicated. And therefore, when you have something that's a lot more complicated, you pay a lot more dollars. So to put together a similar proposed engineering proposal on how to proceed, it'll be around $9,500. So I think that this can has been kicked down the road for years and years and years. I know there's been stopgap stuff done when Wayne was mayor on Boundary. I think Jim Addy did some things, Joe Anderson did some things there. Henry Clay is kind of an orphan by itself. I'm not sure that we as a municipality have paid much attention to the issue at Henry Clay, but I invite you to go over and look at that retaining wall. I don't know what's holding it up. So we've got some significant issues. So this is where we are. We're looking at what around 14 grand if we want to go that route. This will not involve any construction. It's just a full-blown engineering report that needs to be done on both of them. So I leave that with us, and we need to come to some decision on how we want to go forward, if we want to go forward with anything. So let's just open it for open discussion before we put any motions on the floor. Roberta?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I think I asked this last time, and I'm talking about the Boundary Street, is we didn't really identify, nor even on this, does it say where it starts and stops? So is the portion of Boundary Street to be from X, Y, and Z, or only from X and Y? So I think we needed to have that designation so that.
The focus was from Washington to Fillmore.
And what side of Fillmore? So that's what I needed clarification on last time. What side of Fillmore is it? The Washington side of Fillmore, or is it to the far side of Fillmore?
To where it meets Fillmore.
Or I don't think we got that specific.
Well, we need to.
And none of the conversations with the initial engineer and Patty and myself, we did not draw a definitive line, a chalk line, and say, this is where I want you to focus. It's either at the beginning of Fillmore, at the other side of Fillmore. I am inclined to think that there was some discussion that the town would pick up some of the repairs that's on Fillmore itself as it junctions into Boundary. That's something that we can handle. But as far as extending it down to your property and looking at issues, no, that was not part of it.
That intersection of Fillmore and Boundary, where the incline comes in, I would say it's greater than 60 degrees. Would you not agree, engineering room? So and how it comes to that gravel portion, okay, I would not want us as a town to deal with that repair. I would rather have a professional engineer deal with how that slope's going to be handled, how that repavement and allocation and drainage is going to be handled, because I don't think we have the expertise in this town and the staff to handle that difficulty.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that if you're going to contract for $9,500, that $9,500, let's say, includes maybe 5 to 10 feet to the other side of Fillmore. So you make sure you got your total grading done, your real investigation of the intersection done, so that the UPS trucks and the trucks that go down there and the construction that's going to happen on Fillmore in a few months, their trucks don't get stuck.
Okay, I am fairly certain
Yeah.
that it just includes to the edge of Fillmore. There was no specific discussion with Patty and I and the engineer for them to assume the Fillmore issues.
Well, that would be a disservice for $9,500 then. Okay, we're getting ripped off for $9,500. If it doesn't include that intersection, then I think the price should be much lower.
Storm.
Can you just generally describe the scope of work that's discussed? I know there are specific drainage issues with the culvert that, has filled up years ago in other spots. I know that it's the complete engineering report that will be the real deal, but what were the elements that were discussed?
Yeah, it was the crown of the ring, that was several
exactly.
areas where it is draining into private property. Private property which borders on Union Street. There were issues of the subsurface of the road itself. The engineer felt that that road was probably partially somewhat paved at a particular point in time. There you can see evidence of concrete, significant amounts of concrete under rubble on the street. So those were the principal things. And then we got into a discussion on the rocks that are on the Weaver property side of the road, and what purpose are those rocks serving, which would require a full scope engineering section on that. I think Wayne had them put in, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, because I think there were some significant issues there, runoff down there. And so anyway, that's my recollection, what they, most of the significant ones there. There were several points that the roadway was being compromised onto private property. And obviously that's something that we have to take care of. We should not be dumping our water to private property.
It seems like to me that nearly all of the issue is stormwater related. Am I correct on that?
Yeah.
And
There was
and
a
I'm
lot of
sure
stuff.
that's going to involve everything, including spill off from Fillmore. And I would think they'd be looking at all of those connections, and it's a very complicated picture. So
Yeah, and also, like, how many other spots in town have issues? And if we get this back, and it's going to be $100,000, and it very well could be just Henry Clay.
Yeah, it could be.
Clear need.
It could be. And I'm concerned about Henry Clay too, for
Yeah.
the amount of dollars there.
Yeah.
It's going to be significant.
I guess that's part of what I'm thinking. Like, I've gone out and looked at Henry Clay. It does seem like that's something that can reach a tipping point fast. And but I'm also concerned the Budget and Finance did discuss it. And in a perfect world, like we already have the capital improvement plan in place, and that that would be able to help us get our hands around everything together, have efficiency in doing things, and also be able to pursue funds for them. But it's not a perfect world, and my mind is like Henry Clay seems like a clear case where like this is a safety issue that is fast approaching, and that's why I was asking the questions about boundary. Is how much of sort of a clear and present issue is interest safety. Just if it's $10,000 to do the assessment, how much will the work be? And we don't even know what other work might be needed in town. Are we going to deplete what funds we have and know that these are the right places? Like, I feel like Henry Clay is a pretty clear case, and I just don't know about that.
Zach, let me ask you to comment on your half of it. If you've got anything you want to add on Henry Clay, you were part of that discussion.
Yeah, I was there. We climbed down. There's a small retaining wall on, I guess, the north side of Henry Clay. You put your hands, like the mayor said, I'm not sure how it's actually holding up. I think there's a lot of undercutting from stormwater runoff. And as we've seen recently with the High Street project proposal, anything involving a retaining wall and then pavement, significant construction issue. I mean, I wasn't there for the second half, so I can't speak to that part, but I think I'm following what Storm's saying is that if we had, I think there's a bigger budgetary question to ask. If we had to focus on one of these, I think that Henry Clay is going to be the more pressing. I don't know what the future of Boundary Street looks like, but I would imagine we have a bit more time to assess that.
Yeah.
And perhaps that's something that we might want to look at. You know, it's not ideal to patch, but until we have our arms around things on the whole, that may be something to do.
Yeah, and what concerns me a little bit about the dollar amount or boundary is, us, this term of officials for the town making this decision that is going to carry over to the next administration or administrations. So I think we have to be careful how we tread, that we don't jump into this here. That might be, like you say about the one on Henry Clay, the prudent area to look at. But that and then reverting.
To add is that if we do the assessment now, there's a significant amount of time between the assessment and when we would actually pull the trigger on doing repairs. The assessment numbers might change as we've seen with other large projects. So it might behoove us to do one and try and get that work done as quickly as possible, and then come back and do the assessment again.
We definitely know that the assessment will change. Yeah. I mean, we've seen that with water stuff. Let me get Roberta first, Chris.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The conversation with making Henry Clay the priority because of the detriment to the property owners, children below that wall, and the property owners have to travel that street. So I would agree if that motion comes to the table tonight, that maybe we table Boundary Street. But if we are going to table Boundary Street, then I would ask the new assessment to include the intersection in 10 feet to, let's say, what is that, the south? So that whole intersection is included, but also what's maybe happening along Boundary Street. I walk it pretty much every other day, but there has been some illegal dumping from the residents in Bolivar over to the Weaver House, and I did report that, and nothing got done. But so there is a manipulation maybe by the property owners of what's happening on the street. There is a natural flow of water that comes through the Weaver House, from Robbie's house, and down under or over Boundary Street and through those properties. So we need to make sure that the property owners aren't causing their own problem also by filling in the natural flow, the natural creek that was there, and causing backflow and back flooding. So we need to really maybe add that. If it truly is going to be maybe a stormwater report, then maybe a paving report, then maybe we really need to have that clarified in the boundary assessment.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. If we are going to consider the table boundary, that we make these additions to the proposal. Chris?
I find myself very concerned about Boundary Street after having visited with some owners adjacent to it. Although I will agree that maybe this, if we have to pick and choose for this study, maybe the Henry Clay right now. However, on the boundary, then I think there may be some maintenance and some, I don't even know what, but I think, for instance, there are some clogged pipes and maybe some clearing, maybe some planting that could be done. Maybe we need to go back and look at the notes on our stormwater study to see if there are, if we can't do the major project, would there be some pieces that we could do to fix that up that maybe would not be real high dollar now. So,
Yeah, thing is with the old stormwater project in 2011, it's not, Boundary Street wasn't, my recollection, part of it. And
oh, I thought it was.
Was it?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so.
in that case, there may be, or at the very least, to have the maintenance department look and see
Yeah.
if there are one-off things that can be done to at least stabilize it until a more comprehensive review can be done.
And that was one of my thoughts too on this study. If we did do the full-blown engineering study that you know we try to integrate those ideas and what we've already found
Yeah.
into the piece. So
All right. Well, I'm getting the sense that, go ahead, Jeff. before
Well,
I
it's
give a
the-
sense.
Question is that if we approve one or the other, would it come out of repair and replace? How does that budgetarily?
We have a general fund, we take it out, it's capital, we have capital, like, take it out of line, so it's like.
All right, so I think the five of, or the six of us, sorry, have a feel for this. So Chair will entertain the motion.
I move to approve spending up to $4,600 to have Alpha Engineering conduct a complete engineering report for the Henry Clay Street project out of 976 Streets and Transportation. 977 Streets and Transportation. Let's leave
Second.
976 alone.
Second on the motion, second from Chris, discussion. All those in favor of the motion? Opposed, motion carries 6-0. Speaking of motions, the Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would like to add another motion to this agenda item.
Okay,
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that the Boundary Street, presentation for, repairs be, reevaluated and add the concerns brought forward tonight regarding the intersection 10 feet to the south of that intersection and the drainage, problems may be brought on by the alteration of the natural flow, and have Alpha Engineering or other engineers give us a new quote for study and evaluation.
Debbie, do you know what we were billed for these two preliminary studies? Okay, we never received the bill. That's a wonderful thing.
It's probably included in the. That's probably
Yeah, okay.
was an estimate for a bill.
Yeah. All right, okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second on the motion? Chair hearing no second, motion fails. Now motion to adjourn.
Well, I wonder if, and I don't know whether this needs a motion, but if we have a functioning stormwater committee now.
We did.
I'm wondering if the stormwater committee could be directed to look at this issue, perhaps with town staff and maybe the sewer district. And
Sort of committed to the committee to, and I've been thinking a similar thing, to look at not just Boundary Street, but to identify if there are other pressing needs. Like really, I feel like it's something that belongs under planning ultimately. But it could be under stormwater.
Well, it is related to planning, it is a land use issue, so, but, you know, planning obviously has an iron fire, but so does the stormwater. Okay.
But to start, maybe, looking at the clogged pipes and that type of thing.
I don't know if you wanted to correct the motion on that, Chris, or you just want to.
Okay, I move to direct the stormwater committee to do a study of Boundary Street and related stormwater issues on the street and related to the street.
You want to amend that to include Palm?
I'll second that.
You want to amend it to include Palm?
Yeah, and is that strictly Boundary Street or to also conduct?
I'd like, my goal is to focus on the issues around Boundary Street. But some of that's going to involve, and certainly you could amend the motion if you want, but I think that's going to be a pretty tall order in itself.
Well,
And might be good to focus on that particular one, and that may be good practice for other things later. That's my idea.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second? We have a second from Roberta. Discussion? Zach?
I just also want to point out, I think that's putting a lot on the stormwater committee, but there will be, as Roberta mentioned, a potential for 4 new houses just up on Fillmore, which are directly uphill from the boundary drainage area. So I don't think this should include that, but just that the stormwater committee should be aware that anything you find will be affected by this new
Things
construction.
are changing now.
It's a dynamic situation.
You know, Storm, you may want to consider using Alpha as an SME for the stormwater. So if they did, they may be willing to do that. Come in as a subject matter expert and meet with you just like they met with Patty and Zach.
yeah, I feel like, again, these just happen to be the two things that bubbled up for whatever reason. I mean, in terms of Henry Clay, good thing. It's something that's going to fail.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like, to at least kind of like we did with Dark Sky, walk the town and just see if there's anything
Okay.
else, just so we don't get ourselves in so deep on 1 and 2 projects that we've completely missed something that we should have.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. We have a second from Roberta. Other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Now the chair will entertain another motion. Now will be Chris making a motion to adjourn. Storm seconded. All in favor to adjourn? We are adjourned at 8:52.